How's it going, everyone? Welcome into NOLA Prep's Friday Night Live semifinal edition. Spencer Urquhart here with just Chris Dabe tonight. Joe Holm didn't have any games tonight. No North Shore teams and no Newman for him. So there's me and Chris holding it down tonight. How's it going,
Yeah,
Chris? How's that
it,
call game?
it's going good. Yeah, it was an exciting game. A lot of exciting games in the area with Carr and Catholic and St. Aug and Curtis and your game you were at with St. Charles and U High. So it'll be fun to kind of break them down. But yeah, no George tonight. He was a fan at the Tulane game at Yeoman Stadium.
Right, which I believe Tulane won. The last I saw, they were up pretty big on North Texas. So it looks like the Green
Yeah,
Wave
they
might
ended
be
up winning.
playoff bound.
Yeah, looks that way.
For sure. Yeah. Good to see John Summerall still coaching them, unlike Ole Miss, but we won't get too deep into college
No, let's
football.
let's let's move on to the high school here.
Yeah, I don't want to rile y'all up in the comments. Know y'all here to talk prep football. So yeah, we'll kick it off with Division One select. Chris was at Edna Carr Catholic Baton Rouge. A huge game there, a rematch of a semifinal game from last year, which Carr prevailed, and Cougars prevail again this year, but it didn't come easy. 17-10, gritty game. I believe he said, Chris, that no points were scored in the second half.
Yeah, 17-10, that was the halftime score, and that held all the way to the end. The Carr defense had four takeaways, certainly a big factor in the game. Three of them on interceptions, one at the goal line by Aiden Hall on an underthrown pass when the Catholic quarterback was getting pressured. But the big play came toward the end with less than 2 minutes left. Catholic was actually driving. They had a big play to get into scoring range, get inside the red zone, and hand off to the running back. He gets through the hole. Looks like he has a clear path to the end zone, and then yeah, he gets wrapped up by Colin Jones, and Ronell Kindle comes and knocks the ball loose, and Romeo Brown comes up with the recovery, and Trey Garrison gets a first down. When Carr takes over, Trey Garrison runs for a first down, and they're able to run out the clock. So big turn of events right at the end for Carr to maintain that lead, and second year in a row that them and Catholic played a real battle of a semifinal. Last year it was 21-19. This year 17-10, and so the last 2 years, the one school that has really given Carr the biggest battle has been Catholic, and it happened again tonight. It really wasn't a surprise, and Bryce Brown talked about it afterwards. These teams have played 5 times in the last 7 years, and almost all the time they're tight, low-scoring ball games. And I've thought all year, if any team's going to beat Carr, they're going to have to keep them under 20 points. Catholic did it tonight, but they just trying to score 20 points against that Carr defense is next to impossible. And so turned out well for Carr. Good defense in the run game, and that's been the formula all year long.
For sure. Yeah, Carr looking to go back to back. They won the state championship last year there in the Division One select. This year's team looking to be really special at a 15 early signees, Chris. I know you're at that signing day on Wednesday.
Yeah, that was really something. And one of the kids said there that there'll never be another team like this. And I know he's among those kids that signed. And yeah, I don't know, the way Carr just seems to turn out talented teams and skilled players and everything. This feels like it's just sort of a machine that just keeps on going. But at the same time, you don't want to take it for granted the appreciation of what they're able to do. Not just the players, they put a lot of work in, but that coaching staff. There's a lot of skill development and player development and understanding game situations and all that. And it really comes through in the way that they play in some of these tight ball games. They really only had two tight ball games to this degree all year. Tonight's game, and then when they played American Heritage back in week 2 at the Superdome, and that game went to overtime. So certainly, probably some value in that game that showed tonight.
For sure. And Carr will be taking on the Purple Knights next weekend in the Dome. St. Augustine, who takes down John Curtis 31-29. A epic game. It sounded like they're Tad Gormley real back and forth. St. Aug QB Bashan Kulan, I believe, got off to a little bit of a slow start there, but then redeemed himself at the end of the day.
Yeah, we had our reporter Daryl Williams out at that game, and yeah, Bashan, he had a couple of interceptions there in the second half, but then redeemed himself there right at the end with pretty much a walk-off touchdown to Derek Bennett with no time left on the clock, and a 3-yard pass, and that gave St. Aug the win. back and forth game all the way through. First time for St. Aug getting to the state finals since 1979, which is kind of hard to believe. Kind of the storied history that they have football wise. It was a dominant team in the state back in the 1970s, but their last title was 79, last time in the Dome. 1979. So here they're going to get a chance to go back again, and I can't wait to see what the crowd's going to be like for a Carr St. Aug game next week. It's a 3:30 Saturday afternoon game in the Superdome. But yeah, getting back to this game here, just kind of looking through what Daryl sent us. It was a back and forth game, especially late. A lot of lead changes at the end, and St. Aug coming through when they needed to, but give a lot of credit to Curtis too. I mean, they rose to the occasion as well. They got a touchdown with very little time left, and uh, sorry, I got distracted. But the touchdown with very little time left, and then Coulon engineered that final drive to get down there to get the win.
For sure. Yeah, really impressive. I was really impressed with Coulon last week. They blew out Rummel, and he just looked really strong. They're really poised, and he just, even without Raekwon Williams, one of their two elite D1 caliber receivers there, alongside Miguel Whitley. Raekwon, unfortunately, out for the season. But it seems like Derek Bennett's really stepped up for St. Aug, as well as some other guys, where Coulon's still playing at an elite level.
Yeah, kind of looking through more of the details here. Yeah, on that drive, a 43-yard pass to Khalil Lewis. He's a running back. Um, so they get kind of flip the field, get the other side of the field, pass interference, got the ball to the Curtis 23 with 15 seconds left. Then Coulon scrambled for 10, ran out of bounds with 11 seconds left, and then the next play, pass to Vershawn Sims, went to the 3 with 4 seconds left, where he was ruled out of bounds. And there's a quote here from JT Curtis saying that his butt had hit the ground and then he slid out of bounds, meaning the clock should have continued to run. So a little bit of
Wow.
controversy there toward the end, and then with the last play, getting the winning touchdown. So man, certainly that game literally could have gone either way, depending on the call of a referee. And I'm not one that subscribes to blaming refs and anything like that. This is just these are how the games unfold, and the kids made plays, and that's what decided the game.
For sure. Yeah, it sounded like a great game there at Tad Gormley. Curtis Aug, two great teams there. I'm sure whoever won that game, I'm sure is going to give Carr a little trouble at least. So I'm not going to predict the upset, but I definitely think it's not going to be a blowout like last year with
Well,
Carr
I
in the
did
state
cover
title
the
game.
I covered the Carr St. Aug game when they played. I think it was like week 5 in Algiers, and Carr won that game 42-21, but there was a sequence there in the third quarter where St. Aug had a chance to make it a one-score game. They got stuffed on a fourth and goal run at the one, and then Carr went down the field, made it a two-score game, or made it a three-score game actually, and that kind of split things open. But that game also was the first game that St. Aug played without their starting running back Keith Hill, who had a season-ending knee injury the week before. So I kind of felt like St. Aug was a little thrown off offensively, not able to create any balance. Now I say that trying to look at it objectively, but I mean the Carr defense. It might not matter who you have at running back with the way that Carr defense can stop the run and as dominant as they are up front. But I've always wondered if they get it, if St. Aug can get its footing with a run game and kind of get a little more balanced, and just to see how it would unfold. And I thought, well, maybe we'll see it in the dome, and here now we're going to get that chance.
For sure. Yeah, it seems like Khalil Lewis has really stepped into that workhorse role there in place of Hill. And he's done a very good job. It seems like the past few weeks there.
Yeah, he has, and just a sophomore. And I know Robert Valdez would point out the play of the line as well as not just the running back, but I think they had a line that kind of an offensive line that came together this year for the first time, and so certainly that is a big factor in anything they're able to do offensively.
For sure. Yeah, let's talk Division Two select now, which will also be an all New Orleans state championship game at St. Charles and Shaw. I'll start with St. Charles, who's that's where I was. I was at La Place tonight for the St. Charles U High semifinal rematch from 2023, which went to overtime. And guess what? We went to overtime again tonight. History repeated itself. out there, and it was St. Charles though that got it done. They got it done in 23. Get it done again this year. This year's score was a lot higher though. I believe the 23 game was only a 10-7, and this one was 34-27. A good bit of offense here, pretty back and forth game. Landry LeBlanc, St. Charles quarterback, sets the tone with a 23-yard touchdown run on their first drive. And St. Charles was up big. They were up 20-7 at the half, 20-0 at one point. But U High really started to pick up steam there toward the end of the first half and then into the second half. I mean, it appeared it was U High's game. I mean, they took control of the game there toward the end and completed a long touchdown pass to Lawson Dixon from Ethan McGlynn. Their quarterback was really getting into a rhythm after a slow start. But St. Charles special teams, they've been known for their special teams, and they stepped up again. It was tied at 27. Looked like U High was going to take a 1-point lead, but they didn't because St. Charles blocked the extra point to keep that game tied. There was only a minute 30 to go. Ended up going to overtime. St. Charles wins the toss, gets the ball, and Landry LeBlanc got his third rushing touchdown. Had played a part in all 4 touchdowns, had a passing touchdown as well. Got the rushing touchdown on the first down. It was 1st and 10. He got it in overtime, put them up by 7, and then U High had a shot. They got to the 5, but St. Charles defense held strong on 4th and 5, forced an incomplete pass to get the win and return to the Dome. They missed out on it last year. They had gone for many years in a row, but they've had a kind of a down year last year, but they're back this year. St. Charles Comets, 1 seed in Division II select, and they lived up to it tonight with a big 34-27 overtime win.
Yeah, it was 5 years in a row getting to the state finals before last year. So now they'll be back for the 6th time in 7 years. And you mentioned the block extra point, and I think, I mean, St. Charles has some staples within their program. Their play on defense, the run game. Yeah, I remember when Frank Monica was the coach, and I think it was his last year at coaching, and he talked about how they build their team's defense first. They take their players that they know, their best 11 basically, and put them on defense and build their team that way, and then fill out the rest of the team from there. And I don't know if that's the way that Wayne Stein still approaches it. It may be, but they do that, and then they depend on a run game. But then the X factor is really the special teams and what they're able to do and on that aspect of the game. And you get a blocked extra point that basically allows the game to go to overtime, and then they win. I mean, those little things, just finding an edge somewhere in a field goal block or an extra point block can make all the difference in the world. And I'm pretty sure in the semifinal game 2 years ago that they won in overtime. Something it was very similar. I'm almost positive as I covered that game. I'm pretty sure I remember there being a blocked field goal right toward the end for St. Charles that allowed it to go to overtime. So it's not surprising to hear that, and it's just remarkable how they're able to just get these little edges and find ways to win big games like they do.
For sure. Yeah, their special teams is legit for sure. They even made 2 30-plus yard field goals tonight. Their kicker, Tyler Miliotto,
Yeah,
a couple of big kicks.
He had the winning field goal 2 years ago in the semifinal against U High.
For sure. And then they'll be facing Shaw, the defending state champions. Like Carr, West Bank shows out. They'll be back in the Dome. Took down Vanderbilt Catholic 27-0. Huge win for Shaw. They had kind of a rocky end to their regular season, but man, they've turned it up in the postseason now, and they're headed back to the Dome.
Yeah, we had Jim Derry there at the game, and it was a 3-0 ball game at halftime. So Shaw opened things up a little bit offensively there in the second half. Only 58 yards allowed through 3 quarters. They had a couple of interceptions. Ethan Lentz picked off a couple of passes, including one for a touchdown at the end. And trying to find any kind of offensive notes within here. But yeah, I think that the defense is really kind of the thing to remember about this team. That last year, they had Jasper Parker and Mason Wilson at running back and quarterback, and I think that combined they ran for like 4,000 yards or something along those lines. And this year it's not nearly as explosive, but they returned 9 starters from that defense last year, and so this is still a state championship defense. And I think it was kind of easy to sort of forget that when they went in the playoffs as a number 7 seed. They had some losses late in the year. Um, that maybe weren't expected. I'm trying to remember. They lost to Belle Chase and to St. Charles. Is that am
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remembering that?
they
Yeah.
did. Yes,
So they
yes.
ended on a kind of a low note in that respect, and I'm pretty sure they were shut out in both games.
Hmm.
But still, it's you got a defense like they seem to have, and being able to carry them. You know, if you have a good defense, it means you don't need to score a whole lot of points, and maybe that'll be the formula next week. You have two teams that are you could argue are known for what they can do defensively going against each other within from the same district. And they played each other in week 10, and I know St. Charles won.
Yeah,
I don't
24
remember
nothing. I think
24
that the
nothing.
state championship is going to be a little bit closer.
Yeah, yeah, I sure hope so. At the very least, I'd like the games to be entertaining. 24 nothing doesn't sound too entertaining.
Right. Yeah, I think this one might be kind of gritty, low scoring, and since both teams are very strong on defense, I thought this St. Charles U High game would be lower scoring, and ended up a pretty entertaining game there.
But yeah, both teams have pretty good running backs, good run games. I mean, um, so yeah,
Hmm.
I was trying to find any kind of yeah. There's no offensive stats in here, but DeAndre Franklin for Shaw, and then Skylar Edwards there for St. Charles, certainly carrying a good load of their uh, of their offenses.
For sure. And we got a comment here from Jonathan Beck saying BC got robbed, guessing he's referring to Bell Chase. So let's talk a little bit about that one. The Division II non-select semi there. Bell Chase took a trek out west to go play Iowa and gave him a good fight, but fell short there, I believe, 28-21.
Well, as far as Bell Chase getting robbed, I'm a little short on details in that respect. Um, I do know it was a tight ball game toward the end. We did have it covered by a reporter out that way and noted a handful of the intercept turnovers that by Bell Chase that impacted the game. Bell Chase trying to get to the state finals for the first time since 2008, back when they won a state championship. Um, but yeah, we'll to get enlightened, I guess, a little bit in understanding how exactly they may have gotten robbed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Gotcha.
that's
Yeah.
all I got.
Yeah, yeah, all good. We had a couple others here. Riverside, the Rebels going back to the Dome. They took down Ascension Episcopal there, I believe, 42-14 in reserve, defended their home field, were able to the pathway to the Dome went through reserve, and Coach Lee Roussel had mentioned how big that would be if they could get that home field advantage, and it paid off.
Yeah, and second time in 3 years for them getting to the Dome, and this was a tight ball game up to halftime. Then Jaden Obikwe, 4 touchdowns in the second half, and that seems to be kind of the formula for Riverside in recent weeks is big games by that senior running back who transferred from East Jefferson. Um, 278 yards and 6 touchdowns and 36 carries. So I guess it was
Oh
four
my
four of
goodness.
them after halftime and two before the half. Um, so yeah, but Riverside, I mean, aside from Obikwe, who wasn't in the Dome 2 years ago, that team's full of players who did play in the Dome 2 years ago, including their senior starting quarterback Brock Bourgeois. So you're bringing in some players who have played there before, and I can only guess that gives kids a little bit of an edge if they've been in the Dome before, and probably a little more of an edge for them is that they didn't win when they got to the Dome the last time. So they ought to be grateful for the chance to get back there, and I'm sure they're itching to get a chance to come away with a win.
For sure. Yeah, sure. They'll definitely have a chip on their shoulder there. South Plaquemine was looking to get back to the Dome. They fell short there to Mangum. They had the home field last year. This year they had to go on the road for the semis and fell short 49-14 up
Yeah,
in
that's a
Northeast Louisiana.
yeah, it's a long road trip up there. And saw Plaque. I saw them play once this year, and I know Roderick Parker's the quarterback, a fifth-year starter, been starting since 8th grade. But a lot of the other main contributors on that team, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, one of their top receivers is an 8th grader, and they got some other players that
They're
I
young,
think
yes.
we're gonna be seeing some of their names for the next couple of years. I mean, you just wrote about them earlier in the week. I guess you can kind of
Yeah, I mean
expand
their
on that a
top two
little bit.
skill players are a freshman and an 8th grader. So
Yeah,
their skill group is very young. They had some seniors though on defense that were good and stuff, and then of course Rod Parker, the senior QB. But yeah, they were. I mean, their coach Lyle Feet told me that this was supposed to be a down year for them. So but the fact that they made it to the semis, that's it just goes to show that program's they're back for sure.
yeah, and they're gonna be 1A next year. They're gonna be in the same district as Riverside. So already there's one game we can kind of circle on the calendar.
For
Hopefully it's
sure.
at Riverside and a little bit closer.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that should be cool. And let's before we sign off here, we'll take a look at the state championship matchups and when they'll be played. The Division One select state title between number 1 seeded Carr and number 3 seeded St. Aug will be at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, the last game of the 8 state title games in the Dome. The D2 select between number 1 St. Charles and 7 Shaw will be at 7 p.m. Friday, the final game on Friday there. And then the Riverside Ascension Catholic state title matchup will be the second game played on Thursday at 3:30.
Yeah, and looking at Ascension Catholic, just their scores this year. I mean, they're a super high scoring team. I don't know a whole ton about them other than other scores, but I see some in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s. So that's going to be. It looks like Riverside has some potential to put up some points, so we might be opening things up with a possibly high scoring game.
For sure. We got a comment from Lynn Durham. The best game I want to see is St. Augustine and Carr. Well, you got your wish, Lynn. They'll be playing not tomorrow, but next Saturday.
I think that's been the thought of everybody who follows high school football in this city is the potential for that matchup, and now here it is. And when the announcer at the Carr game tonight, when the PA announcer said that they'd be playing St. Aug, I'm pretty sure I heard a little cheer from that Carr side. I think that's the matchup that they were hoping for too.
For sure. Yeah, that one should be really fun. A district rematch along with St. Charles Shaw. So, yeah, it should be fun next week. Really excited to see how these 3 state championship games play out, featuring we had 5 New Orleans area teams make it to the Dome. That's pretty impressive. We had 3 last year. We had a couple more to the mix this year.
Yeah, the more the merrier, and the fact that 4 of them you got 2 games, 4 teams playing each other, I think that only adds to the excitement.
Yes, indeed. So I think that'll do it for this episode of NOLA Prep Friday Night Live. We'll have to figure out our schedule for next week with the state title game. So y'all stay tuned for that. We'll figure that out soon enough. And yeah, we'll be back to talk about these Dome matchups. So for Chris Dabe is Spencer Urquhart signing off. We'll see y'all next week.